Hi guys, so this video I wanted to do is on sexual assault, rape and abuse. So the video is about healing from assaults that have happened to you or helping loved ones heal. Because something that does happen is that we live in a society that teaches people to blame themselves or others for being attacked or assaulted. And I do believe that it is a big factor on why a lot of victims or survivors do carry a lot of shame and guilt from being attacked. So I am a survivor. This is something that did affect me when the Me Too movement came out. I thought on sharing then, but I wasn't ready. So at this point in time, I feel that there's something that I've written and I wanted to share it with you guys. Look, I mean, this is something to think on as well. You know, sexual assault and the other avenues, they happen to anyone. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman, you know, or a child. It can be men, it can be people who are trans, it can be elderly. It's unfortunate, but you know, it's definitely not something that is specific to a certain gender, race, background. Anyway, so I just wanted to, you know, go through this thing I wrote about holding that shame inside myself. My sister brought it up with me and she said, I can see that you still hold a lot of shame and feel as though you are somewhat at fault. And this is something that I went through a lot of trauma therapy to go through, which is the fact that a lot of survivors, even after they've gone through therapy and are feeling a lot better and feeling stronger in themselves, you know, the after effects are intimacy, troubles with relationships, troubles with trusting. I have PTSD, sometimes I get flashbacks, nightmares, you know, sometimes I have problems even being close to my child. It, you know, does affect being close to people, or it can also affect being too close, you know, codependency, and falling into domestic violence relationships, things like that. So there are a lot of after effects with sexual abuse and assault. So it also affects our core beliefs. I mean, often people have this feeling that they're not worthy or they're not good enough. I wanted to do a video on core beliefs separately, so I can go into that. So this is the story that I wrote, and I'll go into it now. Dear Catherine, I know that sometimes you felt so alone while trying to keep in the tears. I know that you didn't understand what people were capable of in your younger years. I want to assure you that seeing the best in others doesn't mean you're to blame, a minor flaw being burnt by the flame. The labels others have used to keep you down. Just know the labels that hurt the most have been the ones you let stick around. The shame that you've held on to so tight, please remind yourself they had no right. Catherine, you deserve the peace to heal. With everything experienced, you are allowed to feel. The fault lays on the ones who did wrong to you. With the pain under your feet, you took responsibility for it all and grew. Although it still lay there dormant in your soul, you chased your future and found a new goal. The times you blamed yourself for your pain remained, a smiling canvas of possibilities stunted and stained. There were so many nights consumed by memories that wouldn't stop coming, going through all the suffering of decisions acted out to stop the numbing. Without realizing it all along, you were still chasing the feeling that you didn't have a right to belong. Catherine, remember those times you were not to blame, where you met others who had lived the same, the weight of it all holding you back from letting go, the fears surrounding opening that box of sorrow, your eyes welling up with tears masked with pride, because deep down you wanted to help others feel accepted and no longer hide. The truth about our suffering always comes back to the surface, shapes our decisions in the ways we find purpose. Catherine, you are doing the best with what life offered you. Just remember to give yourself a break and forgive yourself too. Give your younger self a hug tonight. Remind yourself to no longer fight the light. Love the way you fought through the darkness. Try to understand your past, let go, and stress less. So in that, obviously, I went into the fact that we do hold a lot of shame and guilt for things that have happened to us, and it does shape the way that we see the world, if we trust others, things like that. You know, but it also goes into the things that people say. You know, people can say, just get over it, you know, just move on, let's not talk about it. Maybe if you stop diving into it, you wouldn't feel so much. Bottling things up only come back to the surface. You know, you can't push things down and expect that they're not going to come out in other ways. Often people who have experienced sexual abuse, trauma, things of that nature, do have health problems and things like that as well, especially if they haven't gone through the healing process, because our body does remember the pain and the trauma, and it just stays in the background. It comes out in triggers, it comes out in, you know, nightmares, it comes out in reactions we have to loved ones, or even getting into relationships. It comes out in maybe being distant with your child, things of that nature. And so this is why I wanted to do this video. I just wanted to let everyone know that you can all write your own story to yourself. Maybe even think about what a friend might say to you, a supportive friend, not someone who's not being supportive. And this is something I've had to learn. Sometimes training people on how to support you is a really good way, because people don't always know. You know, if you have depression, someone might say, go for a walk. It's your job to say, hey, going for a walk is not going to fix my depression. You know you best, right? So figure out what's going to be helpful for you, and say something along the lines of, you know, that's nice of you to think of me and stuff like that. And you know what, I might try that. But I just want you to remember that not one solution fixes something quite serious like a mental illness, or, you know, a history of trauma or something like that. You know, it's not nice to have our feelings minimized, and there are professionals that know how to help us best. So sometimes it's a good idea, if we're feeling really down, to call them, or to seek therapy, or to get on these support groups and things like that, and talk to people who have lived or are at a different part in their journey than you are. You know, if we're seeking advice from people who are at the same place as we are, often we're going to get advice that you know, may keep us where we are, may keep us sad and things like that, even though the other person might be trying to help. You know, so there is something that I wanted to do with you guys, which is a compassion exercise. And I just wanted to remind you guys that it is okay to share, it is okay to be vulnerable. That's what forms strong bonds, and it really does show who is going to support you through tough times as well. And I've learned a lot from being open about my pain and my suffering and the things that I've been through, and I've done a lot of work on trying to be open about sharing my experiences. They're not easy, obviously. Like I said, things still affect me. And yeah, okay, this is the exercise. It's called Don't Beat Yourself Up. So how self-compassion works. To understand how self-compassion works, consider how people respond to negative events. When we are upset about something, our reactions stem from three distinct sources. First is the instigating problem and our analysis of the threat that it poses to our well-being. What psychologists call the primary appraisal, whether we are dealing with a failure, rejection, or a health problem, loss of a job, speeding ticket, or simply a misplaced set of car keys. A portion of our emotional distress is a reaction to the negative implications of the event. Second, people analyze their ability to cope with the consequences of the problem. Those who think they cannot handle the problem emotionally will be more upset than those who think that they'll make it through. Third comes blame and guilt. When problems arrive, we often think about the role that we played, the extent to which we were responsible, and what, if anything, this says about us. People often experience additional distress when they believe that the problem arose through their own incompetence, stupidity, or lack of self-control. Of course, assessing one's responsibility is sometimes useful, but people often go beyond an objective assessment of their responsibility to blaming, criticizing, and even punishing themselves. This self-inflicted cruelty increases whatever distress the original problem is already causing. Treating oneself compassionately helps to, with all three of those distresses, and one can reduce some of the initial angst by soothing oneself, just as one might soothe another person's upset through concern and kindness. So the exercise is about sitting with the feelings. So there is an exercise you guys can do. I have many trauma exercises that I have read and learned and done myself. One of them is get something soft like a pillow or a noodle. They're those long squishy things you go surfing and things with, and imagine that the person is sitting in an empty chair or on a bed or something like that that's not going to hurt anyone, and I would like you to thrust this object, pillow or something soft, at the empty space there, and say things that are quite empowering and make you feel like it wasn't your fault. So things like, I didn't deserve this, it wasn't okay, what you did was not okay, and those types of things. Because I believe that sometimes we don't feel that we're allowed to say that, or that we have a right to express, our disgust for what's happened, or to even say what we wanted to the person who did it. So I think that is a really good exercise, and I had to really put everything into it. I did it with a therapist, and halfway through he said, "You're not doing this properly," because I wasn't even using my energy to hit, because I didn't believe it would work. And once I did, I tell you what, I felt so much better. Okay, so simple guidance exercise. So I want you guys to sit with a feeling. It can be really hard, and if you guys can't sit with the feeling, there is a way to practice it. You sit with it for as long as you can, and then you come back to it. Good feelings are really hard to sit with, I found, for people who've experienced trauma or sexual abuse, or domestic violence even, because we don't feel like we deserve them. So this is something that I've had to practice with as well, thinking of like a good feeling and actually sitting with it, and feeling like I deserve to feel this good feeling. Like, this is not egotistical. It's okay for me to feel this really good feeling, Okay, so here's the basics. If whatever you're feeling is too much, slow it down. Sometimes it helps to write about it, draw it, stop it, get away from it. This can mean finding positive distractions, doing something different, interact with it. Ask whatever is coming up not to overwhelm you. See if you can find some authentic curiosity, not to try to get rid of it, but as if you were letting something unfold in front of you. Let it know that you are interested in it and are curious about why it's here. Often, especially when you're first learning to enter the body, you won't want to sit with what's there. Much more willing to move away from it, run from it. Instead of acting on the feeling or reacting to it, practice being with it. That happens by softening around it. Let your skin hold it instead of tightening up around it. Over time, this teaches you to not be afraid of your body. As you do this, you find you have more room inside. Things slow down, and you learn you can appropriately control and manage what was feeling too big before. And often you feel really scared to dive into it. You feel like you're going to have all of this aftermath and everything's going to be really terrible once you go through it. But it actually feels a lot better. I highly suggest actually tapping in and feeling these feelings instead of just ignoring them, because they're just in the background anyway, and they're affecting everything in your whole life, including your health. So can you notice what's happening without creating a story around it? What are the sensations that you see, observe? Feel the sensations that urge you to do something. Feel the pressure inside. You might notice a push, pull to get away from something, to say something, or go somewhere. Yes, it is hard to notice when you're feeling a lot. It's hard than to not react. Something inside is geared to act, to fight, to flee. Many of us haven't learned instructions about sitting with something. Here's some simple things to try. Notice your breathing even as the push inside is strong. By not acting on it, you begin to learn more about the impulse that is happening inside. Make it a practice to not do anything when you're activated. So if you're, pumped up. If you can practice sitting with what's upsetting for at least 3 hours, then stretch that to 3 days before you do anything about it. I tried 3 minutes because 3 hours was just impossible for me. Just 1 second, I'll just turn the page. Okay, an upsetting phone call or email, and don't respond to it straight away. Wait, sit with it, learn to watch your reactions instead of acting on them, breathe your way through them. You'll see that they settle down and open up with some time. The urgency will ease, the charge will slow down, the push to act right away will change. Something I did to start out with was I would write a text message and then I would read it back and I would say, is this an appropriate thing to send? And then I would write it again and I would write it again, and sometimes I would, even if I needed to send it, I would send it to a friend and I would say, this is what I was going to send to someone. Is this okay? Or I just needed to send it, so that's something. Sit with the frantic feeling. Feel the rise in pressure inside. Watch every simple microscopic movement of the pressure, impulse, tendency. See if you can observe the feeling and watch it rise, crest, and integrate. If it's too much, stop for as long as you need. See if you can find the edges of your skin. If it feels comfortable, take one of your hands and gently touch the edge of your leg or other arm. What happens inside when you make contact? Do you notice a difference in the panic, upset, or overwhelm? Now find the upset. Where is it inside your body or outside? I often find as well, look at the color, where it is. Sadness often for me looks like a teardrop and it's like here. Sometimes I can feel two things at once. Sometimes it's like a burning inside my chest. Try to picture it, think of the color. Watch how your body moves when you talk about something saddening. I usually lean to one side and actually support myself and put my hand over my chest. Okay, if it's inside, have it fill up your skin. Usually we contact the sensation to a small part of our body, trying to get rid of it. Allow it to move outside the confines of where you have it isolated. How does your skin interact with the upset? Continue to drop any content you have about this. All right, guys. So if you guys want to talk to me at all and get any more exercises, I have loads on this topic. I really appreciate everyone who listened. I encourage you all to reach out and speak up about anything that's distressing you, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's abuse in the way of domestic violence, whether it's a death. There are so many things going on and stresses in people's lives, and I encourage people to feel heard, to reach out with the appropriate help, and to understand that there are people who will support you, and there are professionals who are obviously equipped to support you in the best way as well. And I hope you guys have a good week, and thank you for waiting for my next video. And I should be doing another one really soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.